Relic Chaos Sneak Peek is this week, and we're going to be talking about the top 10 cards that you're going to want to find yourself probably considering picking up from this awesome core set. Don't be like the 33.8% of you guys have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can get beyond 100,000. Number one on our list here is going to be the Nordic Relic Savalan. So if you control an Azure monster, Loki, Odin, or Thor, you can negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls till the end of this turn. That's a trap effect that you can initiate every single turn for a skill drain. Then we contribute one Nordic monster, target one Azure monster in our graveyard, and special summon it. You can only use one Nordic Relic Savalan effect per turn, and only once that turn. Nordic's got a skill drain, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to, once again, kind of restate this, that this is an optional activation effect that you can control the timing activation on to narrow down and punish the opponent. That seems pretty darn good to me, just in terms of overall power scaling. This card is nuts here. Next up on our list here is going to be the Dark Dimension Soldier. So this is actually kind of interesting for a rogue choice here. So it's one tuner plus one or more non-tuner monsters. So completely generic. You can banish one card from your hand, target one of your banished dark monsters. Special summon that monster in face up or face down defense position. During the end phase, inflict 100 damage to your opponent for each set card on the field. You can only use each effect of Dark Dimension Soldier once per turn. This is a level 5 warrior synchro monster that gives you a dark or DDR effect for discarding to revive something out of your banished pile as long as it meets the criteria of being dark. I think that this card is absolutely nuts, and in terms of future implications and extenders here, there's a lot to be had with this card to kind of be desired. But I do hope here, as we kind of open up the doors to the future of upcoming formats here, that this thing doesn't end up being a problem card, because free extenders. Next up here is Smoke Mosquito. Now, during damage calculation, if you would take any battle damage, or if you take battle damage from an opponent's monster's attack, quick effect, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, the damage you take from that battle is halved, and then end that battle phase after damage time. You can target one face of monster you control. This card's level becomes the same as that monster's until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect to Smoke Mosquito once per turn. There's a relatively older rank 8 toolbox deck that would side this card, and basically you would use this card to kind of capitalize off of your opponent over committing into a relatively large field, and then you would typically side these in. Your opponent attacks with one monster. If you don't have to negate, you special some of this, take half that damage and end the opponent's battle phase. Now your next turn you're able to make a big rank 8 because of this card's level modification effect. I think that this card is one of the coolest things in this set, honestly. Next up here is the Sword Soul Sinister Sovereign, Guingxing Long Yun. So remember, it's a one tuner plus one or more non-tuner worm monsters, by the way. If you synchro summon another worm monster while this card is on the field, you get to draw one. That's pretty good, right? If your opponent special summons a monsters except during damage step, you can banish one of those monsters. Alright? And if you do, your opponent's going to take 1200 damage. Well, that's really good. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect, quick effect, you can banish that card if you do inflict 1200 damage to your opponent. You can only use each effect of Sword Soul Sinister Sovereign once per turn. So we got a draw one, we got a burn 1200 when your opponent special summons, and then when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect, banish that card and ping over another 1200. This card is really good. Yeah, it doesn't have like the buffing effect that we've seen on the other side of the table here for this, but I think this card is absolutely nuts. Now this card's going to get way better later on. It's just for now, understand that we're starting off very slow because we don't have the rest of the support. This is by far what should be the best card in the set after Despia support. So it's 3 monsters with different names. Must first be fusion summon using only fusion materials from your hand and field with at least one of each. Keep that in mind. If this card is fusion summoned by a spell or effect, you can draw cards equal to the number of monsters used from the hand. Alright, and if you do, Destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of materials used from the field. You can only use each effective Guardian Chimera once per turn. And then if Polymerization's in your graveyard, your opponent cannot target this card with effects. That's more like an effect kind of carry on if you're playing this in something like Frightfurs, for example, which is an opportunity that you can do here, but trust me when I say this. This card's about to get a whole lot nuttier in the future here. Next up here is Salesband, and my constant audience keeps telling me, oh, Robbie, why do you keep talking about this garbage card? Declare one card name. For the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or the effects of cards with the same original name as the declared. The same restriction applies to you, but for the rest of this turn, is for the duel instead. Alright, you can only activate one Salesband per turn. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not. I'm assuming that you guys do here. You guys understand that Prohibition is a victim of being taken off the field. This creates a lingering condition on the field here. And I've said this multiple times here, that this card is infinitely better than Prohibition. Alright, and then Prohibition also only affects cards that are already established on the field. Alright, so you can't negate those. This gives you a global negate. The card is a lot better than people give them credit for. Alright, next up here is Illusion of Chaos, aka the Magician Fodder. Oh boy. So you can retro summon this card Chaos form. We don't care about that. You reveal this card from your hand to add one Dark Magician or a non-ritual monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand, and place one card from your hand on the top of your deck. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the entire futuristic engine for Dark Magician. You can search for Magician Souls on this as a generic card, or if you're playing Dark Magician, this searches for Rod. You know, all of the non-ritual monsters that are mentioned, this is a Rhoda every single turn. Alright, I think the most action I've seen with this is you keep this in your hand and just grind out every single turn with this. Not once per turn Dark Magician search is absolutely amazing. Do not underestimate how crazy powerful that this card actually will be for the game. There's a reason why it's a secret rare in the set. Alright, next up here, I'm actually going to kind of lump the DDD engine together here, because I think DDD is one of those engines, as we will unfold here, that it's very, very powerful. So, what we're going to be looking at here is the DDD Divisor King Deus Machina. So, while you have a card in your Pendulum Zone, you can target one Pendulum monster you control, or in a graveyard, special summon the card to your special summon the card in your other Pendulum Zone. If you do, place a target a Pendulum monster in your Pendulum Zone. Now, you can play Sark with this, do some Zark shenanigans. It's 2 level 10 feed monsters to make this. You can also exceed summon this card by using a DDD monster you control as material. Alright, transfer its materials to this card. Then you can only use one DDD Divisor King Machina in your monster zone. Alright, so you only get one of these. And then, once per chain, when a monster card your opponent controls activates its effect, detach 2 materials from this card, or destroy one dark hot trait to control, and if you do, attach that opponent's card to this card as material. Once per turn in the standby phase, place this card in your pendulums. Unfortunately, it does warp out, but this card is nuts. Ah, boy. Next up here is the Hark, the Dark, Gloomy Charmer. So remember, this is 2 monsters, including a dark monster. It's always treated as a familiar possessed card. That's easy. You can target one dark monster in your opponent's graveyard. Special summon it to a zone this card points to. If this unsummoned card is destroyed by battle or destroyed by your opponent's card effect while it is in the owner's monster zone, you can add a dark monster with 1500 less defense from your deck to your hand. I can revive Destroy Phoenix Enforcer. I can revive a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, because dark. This is nuts. This is by far one of the most fabled cards that we've been really waiting for here. And I honestly do think that we go forward here, you're going to see a lot of power behind this card, especially in the splashable extra deck aspect here. Then the best card in the set, as of making this video, I think is Flunderies and the Advent of Adventure. So, banish one Winged Beast monster from your hand or face up on the field. Alright, so you can dodgy certain hand traps with this. Alright, or a Flunderies spell card. So, Flunderies monster or Flunderies field spell. That's busted, by the way. From your deck to your hand. And then gain 5 light points. You can only activate one of these once per turn. Who would have thought that a spell card that let you dodge some hand traps, not all, that gave you a search for the map, that was a quick play, by the way, because chainable, wasn't going to be busted AF. Wouldn't have been me. So guys, what do you think about our top 10 for the interesting set as it unfolds for Battle of Chaos? Please leave a comment down below. Make sure you guys smash the grab out of that subscribe button. So you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day with some more cool awesome content. Peace out, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.